Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. How many times have you told yourself, this year is going to be different? This year, I'm going to make more money. This year, I'm going to build something real. This year, people are going to see what I'm capable of, and then 3 months pass? 6 months pass? Nothing changes. Same job, same salary. Same empty bank account, staring back at you at the end of the month. Same people around you who still do not take you seriously. You watch others buy homes, start businesses, travel the world, and you sit there wondering, what do they know that I do not? Here is the painful truth. It is not that you are less talented than them. It is not that you are less intelligent. The difference, the only real difference, is what is happening inside your mind. And I do not mean that as some feel-good quote you scroll past on social media. I mean it literally. The thoughts you carry in your head right now, the beliefs you fall asleep with every single night, are programming your life, like software programs a machine. Bad software, bad results. It does not matter how powerful the machine is. And right now, most of you are running on software you never even chose. Beliefs your parents gave you, fears your failures planted in you, stories you keep telling yourself about why you're not enough. That is why you are stuck. Not because the world is unfair, not because you did not get the right opportunities, because your mind is wired for exactly the life you are living right now. Now, before you click away, hear me out, because what I'm about to share with you today took one man 25 years to figure out. He interviewed 500 of the wealthiest, most powerful people who ever lived. Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, John D. Rockefeller. He sat with these men, one by one, and he asked them all the same question. What is the real reason you are rich, and everyone else is not? And every single one of them, without knowing what the others had said, gave him the same answer. Not hard work, not luck, not family connections, something else entirely. Something that starts in your mind, long before a single dollar ever shows up in your bank account. That man was Napoleon Hill, and the book he wrote, Think and Grow Rich, has sold over 100 million copies since 1937. 100 million. But here is what frustrates me. Millions of people have read this book, and nothing in their life changed. You know why? Because they read it like a story, like entertainment, like something interesting to talk about at dinner. They never used it. They never understood that this book is not information. It is a system, 13 precise laws, that when you actually apply them, rewire how your mind operates. Your relationship with money changes, your confidence around powerful people changes, the way others respond to you, respect you, listen to you, changes. And I'm not talking about changes that take years. Some of these shifts begin working inside your head within the first week, but only if you understand what Hill actually meant. Not the surface-level version that everyone repeats. The deep version, the version most people miss entirely. That is exactly what we are going to do today. For the next 30 minutes, I'm going to walk you through every single one of those 13 principles. Not the motivational fluff version, the real version, with the psychology behind why each one works, with real stories of real people who use them to build empires, and with the honest truth about the parts of this book that most channels will never tell you. By the time this video ends, you will not think about money the same way. You will not think about yourself the same way, and you will have a specific action you can take tonight before you go to sleep. That starts the process. But I need one thing from you. Do not skip ahead. Do not check your phone. Do not leave this video halfway. Because the most powerful part is not at the beginning. It is waiting for you at the end. And the people who make it to the end are the same people who make it in life. They finish what they start. So let us begin. The first law. The one Napoleon Hill called the starting point of all achievement. Desire. Now I know what you're thinking. Everyone has desires. I want more money. I want a better life. I want respect. I want freedom. But Hill would look you in the eye and say, that is not desire. That is a wish. And wishes are worthless. A wish is what you feel on a Sunday night when you scroll through someone else's life on social media. A desire, the kind Hill is talking about, is something completely different. It is a burning, consuming, obsessive fixation on one specific outcome. Not, I want to be rich. That means nothing. Your brain cannot act on something that vague. But, I will have $250,000 in my account by December 31st, 2027, and I will achieve this by building a business that serves 1,000 customers at $20 a month. That is desire, specific, measurable, with a deadline and a plan attached to it. And here's what makes this so powerful. Psychologists at Yale conducted a study in 1953. They asked the graduating class, how many of you have written down specific financial goals with a plan to achieve them? Only 3% had. 20 years later, researchers tracked down the same graduates. That 3% had accumulated more wealth than the other 97% combined. 3%. Now, some people have questioned the exact details of that study over the years, but the principle behind it has been confirmed again and again. Dr. Gail Matthews at Dominican University ran a more recent study and found that people who write down their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them. Hill understood this in 1937 without any of the brain scans or psychological research we have today. He saw it in the men he interviewed. Every single one of them could tell him the exact number they were chasing and the exact plan they had to get there. If you cannot do that right now, if you cannot tell me your exact number and your exact plan, then you have already found the first reason your life has not changed. The second law is the one most people get wrong: faith. And no, Hill is not talking about religious faith. He is talking about something far more specific. The ability to see something that does not exist yet and believe in it so completely that your behavior changes before the evidence arrives. Think about that for a second. Most people operate on evidence. They say, show me the money, then I will believe. Show me the results, then I will commit. Show me the proof, then I will take the risk. But every wealthy person Hill interviewed did the exact opposite. They believed first, they committed first, they took the risk first, and then the evidence showed up. This is not magical thinking. This is how your brain actually works. Neuroscientists now call it the reticular activating system, or RAS. It is a bundle of nerves at the base of your brain, and its job is to filter information. Your brain receives about 11 million bits of sensory data every second, but you can only consciously process about 50. The RAS decides which 50. And here's the key. The RAS is programmed by what you focus on. If you focus on problems, it will show you problems everywhere. If you focus on a specific goal with genuine belief, it starts filtering your world differently. You begin noticing opportunities that were always there, but your brain was deleting them because they did not match your old beliefs. Hill figured this out by watching men like Henry Ford. Ford had an 8th grade education. When he told his engineers to build a V8 engine in a single block, every engineer said it was physically impossible. Ford said, do it anyway. They worked for months, failed, came back and said it could not be done. Ford said, keep going, I want it and I will have it. They kept going and they built it. The engineers had knowledge, Ford had faith, and faith won. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote something very similar almost 2,000 years earlier. He said, the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Hill, Ford, Marcus Aurelius, and modern neuroscience are all pointing at the same mechanism. What you believe literally shapes what you see, what you do, and what becomes possible. Which brings us to the third law, autosuggestion. This is the one most people laugh at and then quietly try at 2 in the morning when no one is watching. Autosuggestion is the practice of deliberately feeding specific thoughts to your subconscious mind through repetition. You take your desire, the exact number, the exact deadline, the exact plan, and you read it to yourself out loud, twice a day, once when you wake up, once before you sleep. And while you read it, you do not just say the words, you feel them. You visualize the outcome as if it has already happened. Sounds strange, right? Maybe even embarrassing. But here's what the science says. Dr. Alvaro Pascual Leone at Harvard Medical School ran an experiment where one group of people practiced a simple piano exercise for 5 days, and another group only imagined practicing it in their minds. When they scanned the brains of both groups, the neural changes were nearly identical. The mental rehearsal group had physically rewired their motor cortex without ever touching a key. Your brain does not fully distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. That is what autosuggestion exploits. When you repeat your goal with emotion, with vivid detail, your subconscious begins accepting it as reality. And once your subconscious accepts something as real, it mobilizes everything you have. Your creativity, your energy, your attention to make it true. Muhammad Ali understood this better than perhaps anyone. He would stand in front of mirrors and say, "I am the greatest." Not "I want to be the greatest." Not "I hope to be the greatest." "I am the greatest." People called him arrogant. He called it programming. And he was right. Now, the first 3 laws are about igniting something inside you. Desire, faith, and autosuggestion build the fire. But fire without direction just burns. The next 3 laws are about giving that fire a structure, a blueprint. Law number 4, specialized knowledge. And this is where Hill says something that offends a lot of people. General knowledge, no matter how great in quantity, is almost useless when it comes to making money. Hill is not saying education is worthless. He is saying there is a difference between knowing things and knowing how to use specific things for a specific purpose. The person who memorizes an entire textbook on marketing but never runs a single ad has general knowledge. The person who has run 500 ads and knows exactly which headline converts at 3% has specialized knowledge. And the second person will always make more money than the first. Hill points out that Henry Ford was constantly criticized for his lack of formal education. During a lawsuit, a journalist tried to humiliate him by asking him basic factual questions. After several questions, Ford leaned forward and said, "Let me remind you that on my desk, I have a row of buttons. And by pushing the right button, I can summon people who can answer any question I desire." He did not need to carry all the knowledge. He needed to know where to find it and how to use it. In today's world, this principle is more relevant than it has ever been. You have the entire internet at your fingertips. The knowledge is not the problem. Knowing which knowledge matters and applying it with precision, that is the advantage. Law number 5, imagination. Hill divides imagination into 2 types. Synthetic imagination, which rearranges old ideas into new combinations, and creative imagination, which receives entirely new ideas from what Hill calls infinite intelligence. Now, the language is old-fashioned. Infinite intelligence sounds mystical, but strip away the 1937 vocabulary, and what Hill is describing is something we now understand quite well. When your conscious mind relaxes, your default mode network activates. This is the brain network responsible for daydreaming, connecting unrelated ideas, and producing sudden insights. It is most active when you're in the shower, falling asleep, or taking a walk. Every inventor, every entrepreneur, every artist knows this moment. You stop trying to force the answer, and the answer arrives on its own. Steve Jobs talked about this constantly. He said creativity is just connecting things. When you ask creative people how they did something, they feel a little guilty because they did not really do it. They just saw something. Hill saw this pattern in every wealthy person he studied. They did not just execute. They imagined first. They saw the business, the product, the outcome in complete detail before they ever started building. Imagination is not a luxury. It is the workshop where every fortune is first assembled. Law number 6, organized planning. This is Hill's most practical chapter. And honestly, the one that separates the dreamers from the doers. Desire without a plan is a daydream. A plan without action is a document nobody reads. Hill says you need both, and you need to accept something most people refuse to accept. Your first plan will fail. That is not pessimism. That is arithmetic. Hill says, when your plan fails, replace it with a new plan. When that one fails, replace it again, and again, and again. Temporary defeat is not permanent failure. Most people quit after the first plan fails. They take it personally. They say, I tried, and it did not work. As if one attempt is supposed to be enough. Thomas Edison made over 10,000 failed attempts before creating a working light bulb. A reporter asked him, how did it feel to fail 10,000 times? Edison said, I did not fail 10,000 times. I found 10,000 ways that do not work. Same man, same brain, but a completely different interpretation of the word failure. Your plan will break, expect it. Plan for the plan to fail. And when it does, build the next one faster than the last. Now we enter the part of this book that most people skip. And that is exactly why most people stay broke. Law number 7, decision. Hill analyzed all 500 people he interviewed, and he found one pattern that held without exception. Every single one of them made decisions quickly and changed them slowly. And every person who failed at building wealth did the exact opposite. They made decisions slowly, overthought everything, asked 20 people for opinions, and then changed their mind the moment someone disagreed. The world rewards speed. Not recklessness, speed. The ability to assess, decide, and move, while everyone else is still sitting in a meeting talking about what to do. If you look back at the biggest opportunities you missed in your life, most of them were not destroyed by a bad decision. They were destroyed by no decision. You waited, you hesitated, and the window closed. Law number 8. Persistence. Hill calls persistence the sustained effort necessary to induce faith, and this is important. He is not just saying, try harder. He is saying, persistence is what creates belief. Think about that. Most people think you need belief first, and then you will persist. Hill says it works the other way around. You persist even when you do not believe, and eventually the belief forms on its own. This is identical to what Angela Duckworth found 80 years later in her research on grit. She studied West Point cadets, national spelling bee contestants, and first-year teachers in tough schools. The single biggest predictor of who succeeded was not talent, not intelligence, not resources. It was grit, the combination of passion and perseverance over long periods of time. Hill knew this in 1937. Duckworth proved it with data in 2016. And every successful person you admire is living proof of it right now. The question is not whether you're talented enough. The question is whether you can keep going on the days when nothing is working, when no one believes in you, and when every voice in your head is telling you to quit. That is where wealth is built. Not in the easy days, in the impossible ones. Law number 9, the mastermind. This is one of the most underrated principles in the entire book, and it might be the most powerful one of all. Hill defines the mastermind as the coordination of knowledge and effort between two or more people who work toward a definite purpose in a spirit of harmony. In simple terms, who you surround yourself with literally changes the quality of your thinking. Carnegie told Hill that his entire fortune could be traced back to the power of his mastermind group, not his own intelligence, not his own ideas, the collective intelligence of the people he chose to put around him. Modern research backs this completely. A study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that obesity spreads through social networks. If your close friend becomes obese, your own chances of becoming obese increase by 57%. Not because they force you to eat, because their behavior subtly reshapes your sense of what is normal. The same mechanism works for wealth, ambition, and discipline. If the 5 people closest to you are complaining about their jobs, watching television every night, and spending more than they earn, that is the gravity pulling on your life. No amount of motivation will overcome that gravitational pull. You have to change the field. Look at your phone right now. Look at the last 5 people you talked to. Are they where you want to be? Are they going where you want to go? If the answer is no, you have just found the 9th reason your life has not changed. Now, the last 4 laws are where Hill goes deeper than most people are comfortable going. This is the section that separates this book from every other self-help book ever written. Law number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. And yes, this is the chapter everyone either skips or misunderstands. So let me be clear about what Hill is actually saying. He is not talking about celibacy. He is not talking about suppression. He is talking about redirecting the most powerful emotional energy a human being possesses. Sexual energy is creative energy. It is the most intense desire the human body can produce. Hill argues that when this energy is redirected, transmuted toward a creative or business goal, it produces levels of focus, imagination, and drive that nothing else can match. He observed that almost every man of great achievement he studied did not hit their stride until after the age of 40. And he attributed this to the fact that younger men wasted their creative energy in overindulgence rather than channeling it toward productive purposes. Now, whether you agree with every detail of his argument or not, the underlying principle is backed by modern psychology. Sigmund Freud called this concept sublimation, the redirection of primal drives into socially productive activities. Freud argued that civilization itself was built on sublimation. The practical takeaway is this: your emotional energy is finite. Where you direct it determines what you build. If all of your passion goes into distraction and instant gratification, there is nothing left for creation. Law number 11, the subconscious mind. This is the engine room. Everything else in this book ultimately feeds into this one principle. Your subconscious mind works 24 hours a day. It never stops. It processes everything you feed it, positive and negative, and it converts those thoughts into their physical equivalent. Your subconscious handles about 95% of your daily behavior. The decisions you think you're making consciously, most of them were already made by subconscious patterns you set years ago. What you eat, how you spend money, how you respond to stress, who you're attracted to, how much risk you're willing to take. All running on autopilot. Dr. Joseph Murphy, who wrote The Power of Your Subconscious Mind 26 years after Hill, described the subconscious as a night watchman. It takes every instruction you give it and executes it without question. It does not judge. It does not filter. If you tell it you're broke, it works to keep you broke. If you tell it you're building wealth, it works to build wealth. The problem is most people are feeding their subconscious garbage. Fear, doubt, negativity from the news, comparisons on social media, conversations with people who complain constantly. And then they wonder why their life looks exactly like the garbage they have been feeding their mind. The auto-suggestion technique from Law 3. That is how you reprogram the subconscious. Repetition with emotion, every morning, every night, until the old programming is overwritten. Law number 12, the brain. Hill describes the brain as a broadcasting and receiving station for thought. He believed that thoughts could be transmitted from one mind to another, that the brain operates on frequencies similar to a radio. In 1937, that sounded insane. Today, it sounds a lot less insane. Mirror neuron research has shown that when you observe someone performing an action, the same neurons fire in your brain as if you were performing that action yourself. Your brain literally mirrors the mental states of the people around you. This is why the mastermind principle works. This is why being in the presence of successful, driven people changes how you think. Your brain is receiving their signal, and it begins tuning to that frequency. It is also why isolation is so dangerous for ambitious people. When you cut yourself off from high-frequency minds, your brain defaults to whatever signal is loudest. And for most people, the loudest signal is fear. Law number 13, the sixth sense. Hill calls this the apex of his philosophy, the principle that ties everything else together. He describes it as the portion of the subconscious mind which has been referred to as creative imagination. It is the receiving set through which ideas, plans, and thoughts flash into the mind. In practical terms, this is intuition. That gut feeling you get when something is right or wrong, the sudden idea that arrives in the shower, the moment when you just know, without being able to explain why. Hill says the sixth sense is not something you can develop on day one. It comes only after you have mastered the other 12 principles. It is the reward for doing the work. And if you think about it, this makes sense. When you have a burning desire, unshakable faith, a reprogrammed subconscious mind, specialized knowledge, a mastermind group, and relentless persistence, your brain is operating at a level most people never reach. At that level, you begin to sense things before they happen. You begin to see connections no one else sees. Some people call it luck. Hill calls it the sixth sense. Psychologist Gerd Gigerenzer calls it educated intuition, the ability of the unconscious mind to detect patterns from vast amounts of experience. Whatever you call it, it is real, and it is available to anyone willing to do the work of the first 12 laws. So let us pull all of this together. 13 laws, 25 years of research, 500 of the most successful people who ever lived. What does it all come down to? One idea. Your mind is the starting point and the finish line of everything you will ever achieve. Every dollar, every relationship, every opportunity, every failure. It all begins with a thought that was either chosen deliberately or absorbed by accident. The first 3 laws, desire, faith, and auto-suggestion, teach you how to choose your thoughts deliberately. The next 3, specialized knowledge, imagination, and organized planning, teach you how to turn those thoughts into a blueprint. The next 3, decision, persistence, and the mastermind, teach you how to execute that blueprint when the world resists. And the last 4, transmutation, the subconscious, the brain, and the sixth sense, teach you how to access the deeper forces that turn ordinary effort into extraordinary results. That is the system, not 13 random ideas. One integrated machine where every part feeds every other part. Remove desire and nothing starts. Remove persistence and nothing finishes. Remove the mastermind and you fight alone. Remove the subconscious and your old programming keeps pulling you back. All 13, working together. That is what Hill spent 25 years building. Now, I want to be honest with you about something most channels will not say. This book is not perfect. Some of Hill's language is outdated. His chapter on sex transmutation contains assumptions about gender that belong in the 1930s. Some of the biographical claims he made about his relationship with Carnegie have been questioned by historians. And the book occasionally drifts into promises that sound too absolute, as if simply thinking about wealth is enough to produce it. It is not. Thinking is the starting point, but action, planning, persistence, and the people around you do the heavy lifting. The genius of this book is not that every sentence is scientifically perfect. The genius is that a man in 1937, with no access to brain scans, no psychology degrees, no internet, figured out the operating system of achievement by simply asking the right people the right questions for a very long time. And when you compare his 13 principles to what modern neuroscience, psychology, and behavioral economics have discovered since then, the overlap is staggering. Hill got it right, not perfectly right, but fundamentally right. So here is your action for tonight. Before you go to sleep, take a piece of paper, not your phone. Paper. Write down the exact amount of money you want to have. Write the exact date by which you want to have it. Write what you intend to give in return, because wealth is always an exchange. And write one sentence describing the person you must become to make this happen. Read it out loud once, with feeling. Then put it under your pillow, or on your nightstand, or tape it to your bathroom mirror. And read it again tomorrow morning before you check your phone, before you read the news, before you let anyone else's thoughts enter your mind. Do this for 30 days, and watch what happens. Not to your bank account, not yet, to your thinking, to your focus, to the way you walk into a room, to the way you make decisions, to the way people start treating you. That is where it begins. That is always where it begins. Napoleon Hill spent 25 years learning this lesson. You just spent 30 minutes. Now the question is the same question it has always been. Will you use it? Or will you be one of the millions who heard it, nodded, and then went back to the same life they had before they pressed play? If you made it to this point, you are not that person. The people who quit 20 minutes ago. You are still here, and that tells me everything I need to know about where you're going. This has been Minds of Mastery. If this episode changed the way you think, even slightly, leave a comment telling me which of the 13 laws hit you the hardest. I read every single one. Subscribe if you want to keep building. Because next week, we are going into a book that takes everything Hill taught and reveals the one mechanism that makes all of it work while you sleep. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. I will see you there. Until then, build the mind you were meant to have.